Awesome. Welcome, everybody. I'm Aaron Barney with LeadHelm, and I see a lot of familiar faces. Thanks for joining, everybody. I have 20 years of experience working inside and managing Harley-Davidson and power sports dealerships. I'm also the co-founder of DLP. You may know us as Digital Lead Performance, previously the largest concierge BDC in the power sports industry. Or you may also know us as LeadHelm, the power sports digital sales software and in-house lead management solution. Over the past 5 years, we have learned the importance and impact of digital leads on dealership sales velocity and the need to evolve with digital evolution. After managing over 1 million leads for over 100 dealerships nationwide, LeadHelm was designed out of a need. The need for dealership-specific lead management tools with greater reporting, process improvement, and training to compete in the digital evolution. The biggest opportunity is clear data and letting data drive accountability and success. Today, we're collaborating with industry expert John Greene with 20+ years of experience owning, operating, and training in the power sports industry. A couple of things before we introduce John, a few housekeeping items. We've muted everybody upon entry so everybody can hear today's session well. You can raise your hand. You can select the hand raise icon via Zoom there down at the bottom bar. And please ask questions or leave comments in the chat. They will be monitored by our team during today's session. So I'm excited to welcome my friend, John Greene.
Howdy, everybody. Aaron, thank you very much. Nice intro. I would concur with you. A lot of familiar faces out there. Some I've seen recently, and some I have not seen in a long time. But great turnout today. I'm excited to be here. Just a couple things I think to maybe reiterate or re-emphasize on Aaron's intro there. Everything that you're going to hear today and see today is really. It's born out of real world experience here. Okay, so everybody on this call, everybody on the LeadHelm team, myself, right? We have been in this power sports business for most of our lives, quite honestly. So this is really built by dealers for dealers. So whether it's at an ownership level, operational level, working in a BDC, managing a BDC, any of those things, right? This is what you're going to see today from commentary from me about what's happening in the digital space as well as the industry. That's coming from observations and experience, and the LeadHelm side obviously is coming from the development of this tool. So what Aaron said, if you think about this, over 1 million leads and 100 client dealers, right? So digital lead performance was following up leads on behalf of dealers. And at that time, at the peak, there were over 50 what we called lead agents. Okay, so you had a team of 50 people, and that's all they were doing. And I think what the management of digital lead performance at the time started to find is that data was hard to come by. Right, with all those agents and all that work going on, the accuracy of the data, the timeliness of the data, right? Working in multiple different environments and having to try to carry that information over and record it somewhere. Without that kind of data, we miss out on some accountability. We miss out on coaching opportunities, training opportunities, and so forth. And the other thing, this is going to earth-shattering for you guys, everybody out there, sometimes BDC people and even salespeople, sometimes they don't tell the complete truth. I don't know if that's ever happened. Right, it happened to me. I don't know if it's ever happened to you guys, but it's happened to me. Right. So the accuracy, sometimes even on a traffic log in a store, right, they won't put down agreed. They won't put down right follow-up information because they know the encounter, the engagement did not go well. They don't want anybody to look at that. They don't want anybody to see that stuff. So we had a little bit of an issue with that. So LeadHelm was really born out of necessity to manage this process at the time. So I think that's an important piece there as well. Just a quick overview, what we're covering today. Okay, so we're definitely going to talk about the digital sales process. I'm going to do a quick overview of it, and then a bit later we're going to dive into the process itself, phases of that, all the way from a website visit all the way through the conversion, the delivery of a unit. So we're going to talk through that. going to give a bit of an update on the industry, right? What have I seen? Aaron said some things, right? Harley owner operator for 15 years. I did some work with Harley Davidson Motor Company for a bit of time after my time with Scott in the Harley stores. I was part of the DLP team when it first got kicked off. Most recently, I did about 1.5 years with Garage Composites, working in their training academies, and also had 5 20 clubs that I oversaw: 1 Marine, 1 Harley, and 3 metric groups. So a lot of perspective that I'm going to try to share based on these varied experiences on what's happening in the industry right now. Then we want to talk about what's the current state, right? What's the typical dealer do today inside the digital sales process, inside that environment? How effective are they? And that current state, we're calling it, produces certain results. We're going to look at those results. What's the data? What are the metrics that the current state's producing right now? We're going to talk about an ideal state, okay? Different process, different technology that's been adapted in there, the use of a digital traffic log. And then we're going to look at the results that ideal state dealers are producing. And there's a clear difference. There's a clear difference on what's producing better results. And we're going to actually go through an exercise at that point where we're going to quantify the opportunity that you have there. How do we monetize what we're talking about here? Because at the end of the day, we are all for-profit businesses. Okay, so this is about how do we do things, make more money, create better experiences, and so forth. So we'll do that potential exercise, and then I'm going to take you through just a few of the highlights of LeadHelm. Okay, this is not a product demo; those are available, but this is really what's the opportunity, and how do we move from current state to ideal state, and how do we move there quickly? And I think you'll realize once you do the potential exercise that there's really a good reason to make that move. Okay, so that's where we're going. We will have a full-on Q&A at the end, okay? So if it's a question that can be held, do that, and then we'll just open it up at the end and we'll go through that. If it's something that's really urgent, if it's something that you didn't think we got right, or it's something that's gonna hold you up from really engaging in the rest of the presentation, please put it in the chat, and Taylor's gonna monitor that, and if need be, she will just flag me and say, hey, slow down, we gotta hit this question before we move on. So that's the Q&A piece. The other, everybody should have gotten a worksheet emailed to them earlier today. If you don't have it, there's one available that I think Chrissy will put in the chat, so you can be able to get it there. I'll let you know when it's time to break that worksheet out. We're going to use it a couple different times, most specifically during that potential exercise. So that's where we're going with that. All right, let's dive into this. Okay, I think the first thing to think about here is the digital sales process is a thing. Okay, it's a thing, and it's different from your in-store process. Okay, not yet on that one, Taylor. They're different, right? You have a defined steps, right? You can have a 4-step, 6-step, 10-step, 9-step process for your sales department, right? You've got a traffic log, you record all that stuff. We don't necessarily have that, or have not had that so specifically and so accurately in the digital sales process space. So the first thing I think to really take away is it is a thing, right? It can be identified, it can be managed, it can be measured, it can be implemented, it can be trained, it can be coached, all those different things. So that's a big deal. The other piece is, and again, we've got a variety of industries in here, right? So mostly what we're working in right now is negotiable priced vehicle business, a lot of it recreational product. We do have some automotive, we've got RV, we've got Marine, we've got power sports, we've got Harley Davidson, those kinds of things. So that's where we're working. In the bulk of those segments, 90% of the customers who end up in your dealership start their journey online. Okay, 90% of them start online. What we'll find out later is 90% of them actually come into the store. We'll talk about how important it is to be fluid in both of these different environments because they're very different. 9 out of 10 are going there first. That tells you that your first opportunity to engage with that customer and start to influence their journey is the first time they raise their hand on your website. Can we get there first? Can we engage them? Can we create rapport? Can we create excitement? Can we move toward emotion? Can we start to build a relationship and gradually move that customer down the path? So we have the ability, if we engage correctly right up front, to actually shepherd that customer all along the journey to ultimately an appointment and the delivery of a vehicle. So critical there. Again, think about the numbers. 90% of the people who end up buying from you start online. 90%. The other thing I think, just as an overlay on this, is your website, right? Where these customers land first. That is your digital showroom. It's your digital showroom. And I'm not going to go into a big discussion about that, because that could be an hour session all by itself. But do you pay the same amount of attention to your digital showroom as you do your physical showroom? Right? I know you walk that showroom physically every day. Is it clean? Is it signed right? Are the bikes, are the vehicles, whatever, are they clean? Do we have wayfinding signs? Do we have those things? Is it exciting? Is there an energy there? I know you do that in your stores. Do you apply that same level of scrutiny to your digital showroom? Because again, 90% of your people are starting it. So I would encourage you to go back and audit your sites. What do pictures look like? Right? Can I find my way around? Is it easy to navigate the site? We'll talk in a minute about lead capture tools and how those fit, another integral part of the website. So customers are coming to the website, okay? You get that. Yep, they're there. Some of them raise their hand, right? When they raise their hand, they become a lead. They've given us some information. They have a question. Now I can get in touch with them. So then starts the question. How do I get in touch with them? Who gets in touch with them? When do I get in touch with them? What do I say? How long do I follow up with these people? Okay, those are all kinds of questions. Who does this stuff, right? That's one thing. Then the other, how do I track all that activity, right? What's my website traffic? How many of that becomes a lead, right? Do I get set appointments and kept appointments and deliveries? How do I do that stuff? Does the person that sets the appointment actually take the up when the customer comes in for the appointment? Does that happen? If they don't, how does the data and the information of all the online conversation, how does that get transferred to the salesperson that's going to take the up when that customer comes in? Because if we drop the ball on that, if the customer did all the work online, we have a relationship, we have a conversation history, and we know what caused them to finally make an appointment, if we can't convey that information over to the sales side, the in-person visit side, we've just wasted that customer's time in the online environment the whole time, right? We've actually done a disservice to the whole thing. So transfer of information, the transfer of trust, I'll talk about. They have a relationship with the person that they've engaged with online. They trust them. Now, how do I transfer that trust to the person that's going to take the appointment here? We'll talk about that again a little bit. What do I do with days off? What happens if I have turnover, right? Am I getting all this information accurately in the CRM system? So those are all things that are reality in the dealerships that you are actively involved in today. And I can't see a lot of your faces right now, but I would assume this resonates a bit with you right now to say, yep, I feel that. That's what's happening. Okay. The question I ask right now for you is, how comfortable or how confident are you that your way is really working very well? And if you can say you're comfortable and confident, great. But my follow-up question is, how do you know that? What's the data to support that you're doing that? Where do you get it and how do you track it? If you say, yep, I'm confident, this is my data, this is where it comes from, I will say kudos to you, and you are elite. From what we see, not many dealers can actually answer both those questions. Yep, I'm confident and I know the data and I have it to support that. So we're going to work to get to a point where those are both realities. The entire reason that we're here today, the entire reason that LeadHelm exists is, how do we sell more vehicles? Okay, not just sell more vehicles through online leads, but how do we incrementally increase sales volume through activity inside the sales process, digital sales process? So how do we sell this? We've got dealers 50, 60+% of their annual volume is coming through online leads. We've got some that are at 10. Okay, that's quite a spread there. How do we get closer to the 50, right, and not the 10? And again, I'm not just saying recategorize business that we already have. I'm talking about incremental sales, increases in business at that point. So that's one side. How do we do that? The other side is, if we do this right, if it's seamless for the customer to go from the digital space to the physical space with you as a dealer, they love it. When we do this right, customers love this because they're in control. When they're online, the reason customers like to engage and be online with us is because they're in control at that point. Great. They can do it when they want, right? I can do it on the boss's time, right? I can do it in the evening, right? I can do it in the morning with a cup of coffee. I can do it on my time and so forth. So if we transfer that information, we transfer that trust, all those things, and the customer can do the bulk of some of this work online and then come in and have an exceptional experience, this VIP experience we can talk about, they really like it. Feedback is they love it, because most people do not like the experience of buying a negotiable price good. They hate that process. So if we let them work through some of that stuff online before they come in, great. Right? Let's just let them do that. It accelerates the time that they're in the dealership. The dealership time is more about the wow, the test drive, the excitement, right? All that. So how do we sell more vehicles, and how do we, done correctly, how do we continue to drive a greater customer experience? So those are big pieces. All right, let's shift gears just for a minute. We're gonna zoom out and let's look at the industry. And I say industry, so all the different markets that I just referenced, right? Some things are happening, right? You know it, we see it, and it's a bit of a shift back to reality right now. And you hear it from people, particularly people that work in dealerships that did not work in a dealership pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. The only experience they have is during the pandemic. And right now they're looking at us going, man, this is a hard business, right? Why did it get so hard? What happened? Like, well, no, it didn't get hard. It got back to normal. It's always been hard. We had a 3-year anomalous blip of great business. Demand was high, inventory was low, right? People had time on their hands. They had money on their hands, because if they were working during COVID, they had money. If they were getting stimulus during COVID, they had money. But the problem was there's nowhere to spend your money, right? I can't go on vacation. I can't go to concert. I can't go to the movie. I can't go out to dinner. I can't do any of that stuff. And everybody's telling you, hey, keep your circle of friends tight and do things outside. Well, that's a perfect scenario for all the segments that we work in. So business was a bit easier, okay? And that's okay. That's okay. But what happened during that time, unfortunately, is we lost our edge a little bit. We got a little bit lazy. Not everybody, but you were allowed to get a little lazy. We didn't have to drive as hard. We didn't have to have as many outbound activities. We didn't have to prospect as hard. We didn't have to follow up as much and so forth, because if you had it, somebody was likely to come and pay you what you asked for. If they didn't want to, there generally was somebody behind them that would. So we lost a little bit of our edge. Okay, so it is. Those of us that have been through this, that understand that this is how business normally is, we know how to operate. We know process, we know procedure, we can execute these things. We just have to go back into that situation. Okay, so that's one piece that's happening. We talked about inventory. In some segments, we're seeing some transactional activity start to decline a little bit. Okay, so when we talk about transactions, fixed operations transactions, parts, accessories, service, apparel, pro shop, wherever you want to call it, we see a little bit of decline there. Okay, those are customers who have our product that aren't coming in as frequently as they did in the past. Okay, a bit concerning, maybe. Inventory high, transaction a little bit low. When inventory is high, now we have price competition. Right, so leads, inbound leads, questions from consumers during the pandemic was all about, do you have it? Okay, we see a shift. We've seen a shift. We're in the middle of a shift. Now those questions are all about, how much is it? Completely different mindset of the consumer. Okay, so we have to be mindful of that. Environment's a little bit tougher right now. Macro level, okay, we've got some headwinds as well. Right, so we've got some interest rate situations right now. How temporary, I don't know, but for now they're a bit high. That affects the payment buyer in the dealership. It affects their credit card payments. It affects their rent. It affects their mortgages. It affects all those things. So that's one piece. We've also got the headwind of inflation, which now, from even news just today, it's starting to feel like maybe inflation has crested, and now we're starting to move into some recessionary times. Again, I'm not an economist on this stuff, but all those factors, those couple factors, make people more conservative with their spend, particularly their discretionary spend. And for most of you, you don't sell need product. You sell want-based product. That's what we're in. Some of you, automotive, people need things. We've got some ATV, UTV, side-by-side things that could be for agricultural work. That's a need kind of thing. We've got police departments that need motorcycles in some cases. Those are needs. But for the vast majority of what we sell, this is want, right? And there's people on the call have heard me say this forever. We sell the Holy Trinity. We sell things that are expensive, dangerous, and nobody needs these things. Okay, they don't need these. So consumers are tight with their money. They're not always gravitating toward this area of expense from a disposable income standpoint. So all that told, all that put together means every single prospect is more valuable today than it's ever been before. I don't care if it's a phone call. I don't care if it's an internet lead. I don't care if it's walk-in traffic. They are like gold because somebody in your business is paying to drive that traffic to the door, to the event, to the front, to the website, to the phone, somebody. So how do we make sure that we're keeping track and maximizing that traffic, maximizing that investment? So that's why we're talking about, are you capitalizing on the digital opportunity that's here? Okay, let's go now into, we're going to do a little bit a deeper dive, a little bit more of a dig into the process itself. Okay, we talked about 90% and 90%. So 90% come to the website, and 90% of that 90% are also going to come into your store. And this is, I saw Sam Dantzler on here. This is a Sam Dantzler term on there. It's the true definition of blended retail. Customers want to engage when and where they want to engage. So they're going to engage with us online, and they're going to engage with us in the store, and they're going to go back and forth. And we have to be proficient in both environments. Again, if we set this up right, and we've got dedicated people that are handling our online customers, and we've got dedicated people, different people that are handling the appointments when they come in, that's a great scenario, and I'll explain why in a minute. But we've got to make sure that information and that trust gets moved from the digital environment to the physical environment. We have to do that, okay? So let's just run through these a bit. And this would be the first place, if you want to get your worksheet out, on this one, right, you've got on the upper left, you've got digital sales process, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That's what these are right here. Phase 1, lead generation. Phase 2, lead follow-up or lead nurture. And phase 3, lead conversion. All right. So lead generation, we talked about traffic to your website, okay? If there's no way for a customer, a prospect, a website visitor, if there's no way for them to raise their hand and identify themselves and provide us with contact information, then we just have website traffic. It may result in a phone call. It may result in somebody coming through the front door, but we can't necessarily track that, okay? So we've got to have lead capture tools on there, and there's a variety of them. OEMs, the website itself, you can do Facebook ads, you can have Cycle Trader, you can have 700 credit. The list is, and right, value. What's my trade worth? I need a quote on this. I want to get on your email list. I want to fill out a credit app, all those different things. Those are opportunities for somebody to raise their hand. I have to make sure that my website is set up so those are convenient, easy access, and people are do that. Because if they don't raise their hand, I can't contact them. Okay, so that is the lead generation side. And one of the LeadHelm tools that I'll show you when we get to that piece really helps us understand the performance of those lead generation tools. Okay, it's very cool when we get there. So we'll do that. Get to the website, customers raise their hand. Now we move into phase 2. We got to follow up with these people. We have to try to engage. The information comes in. If a customer gives us a phone number and an email address, whoever's following up with that customer should automatically hit them 3 times, right? I got to call them, I got to text them, and I got to email them every single time. However they choose to respond, that's their chosen method of communication. Let's roll with that for a while. So we've got to do that. And when we want to do that, this is where we start the engagement piece. This is no different than the training that we would do for frontline salespeople or fit specialists on a showroom floor, okay? This is about relationship building. I need to know about them before I talk about the product. And they may say, hey, what's your best price on this? Like they always do, and say, hey, that's a great XYZ, that's a great bike, that's a great boat, that's a great whatever. And what attracted you to that in the first place? Let's try to start to talk to them. Who are they? When do you ride? When do you go to the lake? What's the last trip you took? Those same kinds of things. Format, family, occupation, recreation, motivation, animals, teams, right? Let's get into a discussion. Let's start to build some rapport with these people, okay? Because 7 to 15 times we need to engage with them, okay? To move them further along the process. Videos in here. Some of that follow-up has to be video-based. Okay, walk-arounds of the vehicles, inspirational videos of the product they're looking at out in its environment being used, right? Emotion. Again, we don't sell logical product, we sell emotional products. How do we do that? So we're going to continue on here until we can get to a point where we make an appointment. Okay. Now, the appointment is set, customer shows up. Okay. If appointment's set and they don't show up, this goes back to the internet sales area. Okay. The follow-up, right? Let's go back and get another appointment and reconfirm it and try to get them back in again. If the appointment shows up, now we've got the opportunity to have this VIP experience. Okay, so think about that. If I'm a customer and I'm working with Aaron online and I finally set an appointment and he tells me that my appointment is with Taylor, I'm like, okay, Taylor calls me before I come in to introduce herself, tells me that she's got the whole history. She's talked to Aaron. She understands all about it and she's excited to see me. Do I know where to park? When am I coming in? All that confirmation. Yes. Okay, so now as a customer, I'm a little more comfortable. That's the transfer of trust. So now I know her, I know she's been paying attention. And when I show up, there's my name on a welcome board, VIP appointment for John Greene. The vehicle I'm looking at is parked there with a sign on my name on it. It's clean, it's detailed, it's fueled up, it's ready to go. Taylor's ready for me, right? That's when it starts to make sense. That's when we start to drive conversion up. And you'll see the difference between current and ideal state in a few minutes. It is noticeable, but we have to do that, okay? We could spend an hour session on every one of these or more, every one of these pieces. How do you operationalize these things? That's not the intent today, but I think the intent is to make sure that we have a process that we can adapt and adopt a process where we do this, where we're looking at these KPIs, website traffic, leads, appointments set, appointments kept, and appointments delivered. If I don't have that, how do I coach people? How do I hire? How do I train? How do I staff? What do I do? I can't do that stuff without the right kind of data. Okay, so that's the basic process. And the thing about it that is really, I think, critical here is we talk about the digital showroom, right? Customers go to your website, that's a digital showroom. When they raise their hand and they give us information, now they've come into our digital front door, right? They said, I'm here, I want some attention. What's your average response time to an online lead? That's rhetorical, right? Think in your own head. Think of what it is, okay? I know what some of the numbers are. We get back to them by the end of the day. It's 24 hours. We go for an hour, we go for 2 hours, we go for 6 hours, we go for 30 minutes, whatever they are. It is all over the board on that. And the question I would pose to you, how long, what's your expectation when a customer walks in the front door of the dealership before they get Greene? I bet it's not 2 hours. I bet it's not by the end of the day, right? I bet it's 30 seconds. I bet it's a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And if it's longer than that, if you own the place or you're a sales manager or a general manager, you would come absolutely unglued if it took longer than that, and the customer would leave. Same thing happens. They raise their hand on this lead, they say they want to be contacted, and we wait an hour, 2 hours, a day, whatever the case is, and they've left. Because they're not just putting a lead in and raising their hand on your website. They're doing it all your competitors' websites too. So this is the speed to lead philosophy right here. Whoever gets there first, whoever gets there and responds the best, and whoever stays with that lead the longest is going to get the appointment. Again, 7 to 10 touches, right? To get somebody to respond and engage. Most of the people that are doing this follow-up work right now are not staying in touch that long. They're going to outbound once, customer doesn't respond, maybe twice, and that's about all we get. It's just not enough. Okay, so that's where we are. But I really want you to think through that. What's your lead response time and what's your tolerance at your physical front door? They should match, which is like right now. Somebody needs to talk to me right now. Okay. Let's look at now, this is going to be the current state. Okay, so this current state comes from a lot of things. The current state comes from some of the observations of running our own stores and the challenge that we had. Some of this comes from being with multiple 20 clubs multiple times and talking to dealers about how do you handle this today? What are you doing? What's up next? How are you evolving that stuff? And a lot of this also comes from DLP, because when dealers got onboarded with DLP, There was a kind of a case study. There was an analysis that was done. What's the current environment, right? What's the website? What are the lead sources? What's your structure? All that. So this is I'm bringing you that today. This is kind of what typically happens here right now. And structurally, it's really random, right? Some people, maybe there's a BDC, maybe not. Maybe there's somebody that's dedicated to following up with the leads, maybe not. Maybe the sales manager does it and is in charge of all that. Maybe the sales manager takes the initial lead and then hands it off to one of the salespeople. Maybe it's just whichever salesperson sees it first gets the lead. Okay, it can be all over the place. That the whole jump ball piece of it. And the real point here is any one of those things, other than a dedicated person that does nothing but handle the leads, every one of those other things is fraught with distractions. And I don't mean BS distractions. I mean real distractions, right? Sales managers have other things to do. Salespeople have other things to do. And the moment that they go do that distraction, they tend to that, they've left their post, and now our response time gets longer and longer and longer and longer. And it goes back to what we talked about before. Not good for the customer. They're going somewhere else, right? So we have distractions. Then we talk about follow-up. How long? Again, honestly, salespeople, they are immediate gratification. They want stuff right now. You give them a lead, they reach out to that lead. If the customer doesn't respond, we're lucky if they follow up again with that customer. That's just who they are. Okay. If a customer does respond, they'll engage for a little while, but I don't think they're going to stay with them 7, 12, 15 times. Not the average salesperson. So that's kind of it is, right? A little bit random on who handles it, maybe not the full follow-up as long as it should be. And how are we tracking this? Right. Some of you build spreadsheets. Some of you are trying to kind of pigeonhole, shoehorn in the digital process inside your physical floor traffic CRM system that you have. Okay. There's different ways to do it. None of them is necessarily purpose built for what we're talking about. Haven't been until now. And we go back again to the honesty, the accuracy, and the timeliness. Okay, if I'm doing activities in one environment and then I have to go over and I have to input the results of those activities in another environment, am I going to do it accurately? Am I going to do it immediately? And am I going to be honest about it? And you'll see a difference, right? Because LeadHelm is a system. It's a platform that what we would call users, okay, people that are following up with the leads, they actually work inside of that environment. Okay, so some of this stuff is being recorded at real time as it goes. You'll see that in a minute. Tracking side, and then the staffing side. And this is interesting. We talk to dealers regularly, and I'm thinking about dedicating somebody to follow up. I see what you're saying. I see the leads. Yeah, there's opportunity there, and I've got somebody, but I don't think I get enough leads. Right? I don't think I get enough leads. I'm going to have somebody, but they're also going to be, they're also going to take pictures of the bikes for me, or the cars, or they're going to do something else, right? This is part of their job. They got two roles in the dealership, and I think we don't understand the compounding effect of lead follow-up. Okay, so we'll just use examples, right? Total leads, current state, and this is just real, 150 leads a month. Essentially, that's 5 leads a day. Okay, you're like, oh, 5 leads a day, that's not a big deal. Somebody should be able to handle that no problem, in addition to something else. And I'm suggesting that that's not really the case. 5 leads come in today. It's day 1. Okay, 5 leads come in, and automatically, assuming I got an email and a phone number from all 5, now I have 15 things I have to do, right? Because I've got an email, I've got a call, and I've got to text all 5 of those people. Okay, so that's not bad. I got 15 activities today. One of them may respond again. Okay, so now I've got dialogue over here. So maybe I have 20 activities, something like that for day 1. No big deal. Done. Next day comes. Okay, now I may have had follow-up or responses from my 5 leads from yesterday that I've got to work. Okay, I also need to follow up again with anybody from yesterday that hasn't responded to me yet. So I got to hit them again, and I'm going to get 5 more leads today. Right, so now I've got all my follow-up. I got to recontact the people from the day before, and I've got 15 activities for my 5 new leads today. Next day, same thing. Next day, same thing. Pretty soon, if we want follow-up done right, and done right means more than 1 or 2 kind of half-hearted attempts. If I want somebody to engage and stay with these these prospects for 7 to 15 times and touches, This could be weeks, this could be months to foster enough relationship to where we get there, okay? It compounds very, very quickly. So one thing we see is we tend to underestimate the amount of work that's required to actually drive the digital process the right way, okay? And the other thing in the current process, current state that we see is access and visibility to data, right? The KPI data. And these are essentially the KPI data here, right? I would add, and you'll see it in the digital traffic log, I would add website visits, okay? Visits, total leads, set, kept, and delivered, okay? I would want to know those. How do we see those? What's the dashboard? I need to see those in front of me all of the time, because if it's there and it's present, I'm going to pay more attention to it. So what we see, the results that Taylor has up here, these are actual numbers that we see produced out of the current state that I just described. 150 leads a month. We set 20%, we set appointments with 20% of them. 45% of those are kept and 25% of those are delivered. And we'll run through the worksheet on this in just a couple minutes. Okay, let's shift gears and let's look at ideal state. In ideal state, I initially, when we were putting this together, I was going to call this future state, but it's not future state because this is actual for some dealers, right? Some dealers are in the ideal state. They've adopted the process, everything that we just talked about, the digital sales process and the dedicated people, the training, the tracking, those things, those are all in place. And so inside the ideal process, right? Dedicated personnel, this is all they do. They are paid to follow up with leads, and they're paid to nurture those leads along the way and get to a set appointment. I want to see how many of those appointments show, and then we're going to work on the conversion side of that. So I have dedicated people that are there. I have training, right? I have data that lets me be accountability driven at this point. And here's the thing. This is going to be a good one, right? I have enough data and I have a digital traffic log that now I'm going to start to include that data and the digital traffic log in my daily save a deal meetings or create a deal meetings or hot desk meetings or dig meetings or whatever you want to call them, right? When we're pulling the best and the brightest minds in our sales and F&I departments together to try to move every single prospect one step further along the process, okay? I want to include that because if the traffic log, and I'm a firm believer in this, and those of you that have been around for a long time, you go back to Ed Lemko days, and the single most important document in the dealership is the traffic log. It is a measure of opportunity. Again, we pay money to get people to come in there. They all have a dollar figure on their forehead. What does it cost to get somebody to come in your front door? I want to know what happens with them. I want to know, why would we not apply that level of intensity and scrutiny to our digital space as well? When we just said 90% of our customers start there. I need that data. I need all my sharpest minds every day to look at what happened yesterday and take accountability for how do we move everybody that's in our funnel one step further. Okay, Taylor, let's pull that up and let's just look at the digital traffic log here for a second. Okay, I'm not going through a huge dive on this piece. Okay, the one thing I will tell you is if you make a great decision at the end of this and go ahead and sign up today, the digital traffic log will be built for you, customized for you as part of your onboarding process with LeadHelm. So that's part of the package. But essentially, we want to see by month what are the overall sales targets for the dealership, vehicle sales targets, okay, by month. And then I want to know what percentage of those would you want to be, or do you expect to come out of the digital sales process? 10%, 30%, 60%, whatever the number is. I want to know that. And then I want to see actual performance every single day on here, right? How many website visits did I have? How many leads did I get? How many appointments did we set? How many were kept? And how many were delivered? I want to record that just like a traffic log every single day on here. This does all that for you. And it also gives us a trending report or pacing, right? This is where we are actual for the month. This is the pace that we're on, where we're scheduled to finish the month. And this is where we should be based on where we are for the month. Okay, again, this information every single day, along with your CRM or your traffic log information. Let's look at all that stuff and how do we move everybody a little bit further. So that's a super cool tool just by itself right there. Okay. And again, it's all your KPIs. Website traffic, leads, set, kept, deliver on that point. All right, Taylor, so let's see. So dealers that have moved this way, traffic log is in place, they've got LeadHelm, they're in ideal state and so forth. We see a significantly different outcome. Same leads, okay? I'm not telling you have to go spend more money to drive more website traffic. All we're doing is saying the move from current state to ideal, you make more use of the leads that are already there for you, right? I'm not saying you have to drive more leads. We can talk about how to do that, but let's get good at working the leads we have before we spend money to drive more into a system that maybe not working at optimal level right now. 40%, 70%, 30%. We're going to run through some exercises. And again, this is where we're going to start to try to monetize or quantify what's the difference between these two states. All right. Grab your worksheets. All right. So this is what you have. My next two slides are going to be blow-ups. The first one is going to be a blow-up of the lower left, and the second is going to be a blow-up of the lower right. So this is where I want to start our work, right here. So if you know average leads you get, digital leads, if you know that per month, put that number in both ideal and in current state column in the lead box. Okay, for our purposes, we're going to use 150. I'm not saying ideal state has to have more leads to make more business. We're going to use the same number of leads. So for me, it's 150 in current and 150 in ideal. For you, if you know yours, plug it in. It's 100, 125, 200, whatever it is. If you know it, plug it in. If not, use the 150. Okay, so put that in your worksheet. Okay, ideal state. Whether it's your number or the 150, we'll just run through the math. So if I do it, 150 at 40% set is 60. Okay, so I'd have 60 set appointments out of that. I'd have 42 kept appointments, and I would have 13 vehicles sold. So that would be my statistic line in the ideal state. Okay, so just run the math on yours. Again, if it's 150, I just gave you the math. But if you have a different lead number, just apply that math till you get to the bottom, and that kept conversion should be a number of vehicles. Current state, okay? Again, if you've got your own lead number or you know your set, kept, and delivered percentages, use as much of your own data there as you can. If not, we'll use the data here. And for us, right, 150 leads, we know 20% set, 45 kept, and 25% as a conversion. That gives us 4 vehicles delivered. Okay. Is everybody tracking with that? Okay. Taylor, you see anything? Anybody got any angst in the chat on this one? Are we all right? We're good. Okay. All right. So now what I want you to do is if you've used ours, at the bottom of current state, you've got 4 delivered, and at the bottom of ideal state, you have 13 delivered. Okay, whatever yours are, do that same math, figure out what the difference is. And then Taylor, let's go to the next slide. I want you to take that difference. Okay, so for me, 9 minus the 4, or 13 minus the 4, I end up with 9 units per month difference. Okay, that's what I came up with. Current delivers 4, ideal delivers 13, the delta is 9. I'm going to plug that in there. That's 1 month. Annualize that. 9 times 12 gets me what? 108. Okay, so I'm talking about 108 additional vehicles per year. And I don't know, there's completely different volumes, unit volumes on this call. For some of you, 108 units is an extra month with no overhead. For some of you, it's 2 or 3 extra months, a 13th, 14th, and 15th month of sales with no overhead. I hope that sinks in. Okay, that's a lot. Now, the next thing I want you to do is what's average gross profit, right? What do you get? Front end and back end, right? What's the unit get and what's the F&I get? Again, all different segments out there, different processes. You guys are gonna get different results, but whatever your number is, put it in there. I use $5 grand, okay? 4 on the front, 1 on the back, 35 on the front, 15 on the back, however you wanna slice it. I just use $5 grand for math, okay? So now I have 108 vehicles times $5,000. Quick math on that. What do we get? $540,000 of gross profit. That's $500,000 of extra GP with leads that are already sitting there waiting to be attended to the right way. That's a big deal. To me, if I'm sitting there as an owner, you're telling me that I can, even if I don't get all that, what if I only picked up half of that? What if I only picked up 270 grand of extra GP, right? Terrible day, I only got half of it. This is real money. And so the question really is here, is that upside worth paying attention to? Right? Are you interested in how can I go capture that upside? And if you say yes, great, because we're going to talk about how to do that. And if you say no, I'll say, okay, but somebody in your market is interested. Somebody's going to get this incremental business. Somebody's going to adopt this process. Somebody's going to use this technology, and somebody's going to get those 108 units and $500,000 in gross. Somebody's going to do it. If it were, I would prefer it be me that gets to do that stuff. Anyway, okay. Let's say that you said, yeah, how do we do that? How do I move from current to ideal? How do I do that? And we'll take a couple minutes to do this. I'm going to show you a few slides. And again, this is not a product. This is not a LeadHelm demo, but I think there's a couple particular components of LeadHelm that are worth showing. But even before that, to recognize this profit potential, this opportunity that's here, it requires process adoption, digital sales process adoption at the highest levels of leadership in your organization. You have to believe this. You have to commit to this from the top. It has to be part of the culture. It has to be woven into the fabric of the dealership. We have a digital sales process. We have dedicated people that work there. And the next thing now, we're going to leverage the best technology to help us accelerate the transition from current to ideal. Okay, so mindset, belief from the top. Nobody's going to make it more important than you are. If you're the leader, nobody will make it more important than you are. So make it important. People will follow you. Okay, let's look at a couple of the slides, Taylor. Okay, one of the pieces here, right, the user dashboard. So again, we call them users. When somebody signs up, we start to use that as vernacular, that somebody that is following up the leads and is using the system. So we call it a user dashboard. This is actually where they would function, right? Again, I said this is an operating process. This is a habit that you get into. It's an environment. They work inside of this system. So this screen provides them with all kinds of things. It actually guides the process. It prompts the next steps and the next activity. I'm here. Where do I take the customer next? With each lead that's there, right? We can see, again, this helps us understand how and when to influence the customer journey next. So we see those keys. We also see messages waiting that are on there, schedule of activities for our users for the day. What's on the lead radar out there? Do I have any duplicate leads? Okay, that's one thing. What's happening for them? All at a glance right here. Lead prioritization on there. So we're looking at, this will tell us when leads are received. When did the customer respond? Are leads aging? And what do we do with those things? Again, it prompts, it guides us on the process. Very easy to use. Again, it was built by people that use this for this exact function every day, and people who manage this user every day. So it is easy to use. It makes sense. And we have accountability in all kinds of phases, okay? I can see what happens with an agent here. Why do you have so many messages waiting, right? Why don't you have anything on your scheduled activities, right? There's accountability, there's coaching, there's follow-up that can happen on this piece, okay? That's just one of them. The accountability continues to be woven through here. So let's look at the conversation one, Taylor. All right, so conversation history, right? Integrated communication, so phones and texts, the activities outbound and inbound, right, are recorded in here, okay, from the system. So if I want to initiate discussion with a customer, I'm going to do it through this system. So again, I don't have to worry about them putting the right notes in. I don't have to worry about them recording where they did it or they didn't do it. The system is going to do that for us. The other thing, and this was one of our client success leaders in LeadHelm brought this to the attention, and his point was, Adam's point was, the coaching that can come from this, right? You can see what the user says or what the user communicates to the customer, And we can see what kind of response, if any, does it elicit. Okay, so now we start to learn, oh, these messages work better than these messages. Do more of these, do less of these. Okay, with one agent, that's impactful. For multiple agents and users in a BDC, it becomes even more significant. And if multiple stores, and we're looking at an enterprise level, this is massive. These things work better than these things, okay? We also can see how the customers reply. What do the customers say? Then we can coach, what do we say next? And we start to come up with better ways of communicating more effectively and more efficiently, okay? So we have this conversation history that's there. We think about, when I talk about the transfer of information, so if I'm a user and I set an appointment and the appointment's going to come in and see Aaron, all Aaron has to do is go in and look at this entire conversation history. And he right now is up to speed. So he's ready to receive that appointment or make a call and say, hey, I'm Aaron. I want to introduce myself. You're coming in at 1:45 tomorrow. This is, he just knows everything. It's all right there. Okay. Big piece. When customers respond, right, in real time, it shows up in the dashboard. Okay. Because again, customers, they engage when they're ready online. We need to engage with them immediately when they decide to check in again, because they can engage for a little while and they may go 2-3 days, a week, 2 weeks, something like that. We continue to try to get in touch with them. Nothing. All of a sudden they come back to life. I need to know that right now. They're interested right now, right? Strike while the iron's hot. This alerts us to that piece. Cadence workflows, two different pieces, right? Cadence, the frequency with which we need to outbound with this customer. And the cadence is, there's a contact cadence, right? So the customer raised their hand, we outreach to them and they responded. What do we do next? Okay, what happens? When should it happen? We need to know that. And then there's also a no contact cadence. So customer raised their hand, we reached out to them, they haven't gotten back to us yet. We still have to stay in touch with them. So this prompts us as to when we should do those kinds of things. Again, huge accountability tool. What are they saying? Never miss response. Okay. One more, Taylor. Let's look at KPIs. Again, this could be a day session right here, but we won't. KPIs, the basic ones, right? New leads, set, kept, and delivered across the top line. Need to know that all the time. Again, by agent, by store, by enterprise. That's it. Just like a traffic log, We can coach from these KPIs, right? You're going to have some users that are great at setting appointments, but the appointments don't show up. That's one kind of coaching. Okay. We've got somebody that sets few appointments, but they all show up. That's a different kind of approach. You need to set more appointments, right? You've got a great kept ratio, but you're not setting them right. We've got great set and we've got great kept, but boy, we're not seeing the deliveries. Okay. That's not on the user. That's on the sales department, the operations of when that customer shows up for the appointment. I can't coach individuals without the data, right? We train the team, we coach the individual. I can't coach them unless I know what button to push. This helps us there. Activity reporting, right? This is just everything they've been doing, right? Leads that have been, leads that have touched, inbound and outbound calls, and texts that are on there. What are they doing? Right? They're going to be working for 8 or 10 hours anyway. I want to make sure that they're working. So we have that. I asked you earlier, what's your average response time? Some of you probably knew that answer. Some of you didn't. Some of you just guessed. We get a true response time on here. Lead comes in, it gets claimed. As soon as we do anything to outbound back to that lead, then we get a response time. We get an average response time, and then it's measured under 30 minutes, 31 to 60, and over 60 minutes in there. Okay, a couple things that come from that, right? Again, if we're not responding quickly enough, why not? Is it somebody not doing their job? Am I understaffed at that point? Are they getting distracted? Is it a structural thing? I don't know that, right? I get some insight on this. The other one, this is a fascinating one. Lead source performance. Okay, so we've talked about, right, set, kept, and delivered overall, but what if we could break that down by lead source? You pay money to your website provider. You pay money for Facebook. You pay money for third-party lead generation, lead capture tools. Wouldn't it be nice to know which of those things performed and which didn't? Because I know you pay for all of them. How about if we could actually track objectively, easily, what's the return on investment for all of these different spends that we make? I can see this here. Some leads from some sources perform better than others. This tells us exactly where that goes. I can sit back and my budgeting and my ad spend and say, okay, I'm going to reposition some of my spend into these from these because I can tell that they work better. Let's spend the money on the stuff that's working. Okay. So lead source reporting on that one. Also a good one. All right. The other thing that happened, just as an efficiency that comes with this, other than the data and everything that we've talked about, when DLP put LeadHelm into place, okay, before LeadHelm, the average agent could handle 100 to 125 leads per month. Okay, 100 to 125. LeadHelm comes in and we see 300 plus leads per person per month. Okay, so almost triple. So you think about efficiencies that comes about, you think about headcount requirements, you think about benefits that you pay, you think about staffing models. In addition to all the data and the coaching that comes with it, we actually get ahead. So now we're saying we got incremental business, we got incremental gross profit, and I've got more efficient use of my staff, and maybe I don't need as many because I have the tool that's there. So another piece that is a cool thing. So if you said, hey, I like this, okay, I want to know, I want to make that move, right? I want to sign up, and what's going to happen? I want to make the move from current to ideal. I want to recognize some of that opportunity. A quick roadmap, and then we'll turn it over to some Q&A here. So some of you, when we get done in a minute, you're going to scan the QR code that says, hey, sign me up for this. And I think that's awesome. Do that. As soon as you do that, you start with an onboarding process. Okay, so you're working with the client success team, and onboarding is getting LeadHelm to be matched for your business. What's your website? What are the lead sources, lead source providers that you use on there? Get it all loaded, get it ready so it matches your business. That onboarding also is the platform functionality training. So the user gets trained on how to use it, and ideally somebody other than the user, a sales manager, a general manager, an owner, should also take ownership of the platform and understanding how it works, okay? Because I know we're going to have turnover. We have it all the time. We're going to lose users. We're going to have to replace them. We can help get them trained up again, but somebody in the dealership should also understand what happens. Or somebody's off for a day, somebody goes on vacation. Got to make sure we stay in contact with these customers this whole time. That happens. So then you're functional, and you can actually use the system to do the follow-up. Then we build with you the digital traffic log. What are your numbers? Okay, talk about website traffic, talk about goals, talk about statistics, and then we track that so we can actually, again, put it into the Save a Deal meetings and move things forward. Now you're functional, you're functional 2.0 at that point. And then we have, in all this, there's no extra fee for any of this stuff, right? We have Helm Academy, and this is specific to LeadHelm clients, okay? Helm Academy is not available outside of that. And it really is user development, I will call that, okay? They understand the platform now, but now we need to work with them on how do we handle objections, okay? How do we build value in appointments to try to drive the KEP percentage up, right? What's the ideal workflow? How do I work through my day and get my priorities in line so I'm hitting the most active and the hottest leads right now, and I'm not letting anybody else just die on the vine right there. So Helm Academy, and we will continue to provide those trainings for LeadHelm clients, because look, at the end, if you buy the software and you don't use it, it's just like the Peloton bike, right? You're not going to get more fit just because you bought the bike. It just doesn't work that way, right? You got to actually use the system. If you don't use it, you're going to quit, right? We don't get anything for somebody that signs up and doesn't use it and doesn't see results. So the entire academy, the entire client success team, and the entire help desk, their sole mission is for you to utilize successfully and get desired results out of LeadHelm. Because if you don't, you're going to leave, and then nobody wins at that point. Client success and help desk are all staffed by people that have been in these roles, right? They have been lead agents, they've been agent managers and supervisors, and this is what they do, and they know, truly professional at that. And we will continue, obviously, with more training and development as we go there. Okay, so quick recap, and then we're gonna just roll it into Q&A. digital sales process is a thing. Okay. Industry is a little bit different right now. Some headwinds. Every lead is more valuable than ever. They've always been valuable. Today they're critical. We have to have that. We have two different environments, a current state and an ideal state. Ideal state, structure, data, technology, staffing, training, it produces significantly better results to the tune of $500,000 or more annually in gross profit. We have that stuff, okay? LeadHelm will help you get there. It accelerates the move from current to ideal at that point. So, all right. With that, let's open it up for some Q&A. If we have Q&A.
John, I know Sam Dantzler has a couple of questions and a couple comments, so we want to
No
bring
way.
him up online.
I
Can't
want to
imagine
know.
that Sam has a comment.
Yeah, I first want to know how many clothes are hanging off your Peloton in the basement right now that you're drying because you made some nice clothes there. Good presentation, John. I agree with. I agree with, for the first time ever, absolutely everything you said on this one. So good job. I did have 3 comments and 2 questions. And I want to tee you up with the questions first so you can think about them while I make my comments, and I'll be fast on all these. The question was, number 1, you said 7 to 15 touches to respond to the lead. In our composite, as you know, we have tracked responses to the leads, both on the Harley and the metric side. And we run about a 400% response on the Harley side, which is 4 responses for every lead coming in. And we run about a 250% on the metric side, which is 2.5. When you're talking about 7 to 15, and our average dealer is running 2 to 4, I think everybody on the call, when you said that, was like, oh my, you know? So when you say we're responding 3 times, which we've talked about, we're going to do text and email and a phone call. Is that 5 packets of 3 getting you to that 15? So is it actually 5 responses that are hitting 3 times with each one of those? Or is that really 15 attempts with 3 at a time? So sit with that one. I'm kind of curious there. And then also you touched on the ratio of what a dedicated salesperson with LeadHelm can produce, which was 300 leads per salesperson per month, which I think is fantastic. But my question is, how do you figure out the staffing ratio? Assuming we have LeadHelm, what is the staffing ratio to get them up to speed, to show us right off the gate how anemic we really are on dedicated staff for that department? So ponder on that while I make my 3 comments to the people on the call. You know, I was sitting there thinking about 3 things: the F&I world, yellow pages, and then now digital leads. And I thought about F&I, you know, we've always called it from the Lemco days, these were entitlements. One of the great things about getting a motorcycle from Scott Fisher Enterprises is you're entitled to these great things. And it really was entitlements, because you now didn't have to go to the bank. You used to have to buy the bike and then go to the bank and go through all the angst. And it wasn't that F&I was a moneymaker. It was a real benefit to the person buying. And nobody wanted to do it, and it was a pain in the butt. And then all of a sudden we got really good at it and became a huge profit center. Nobody wanted to be part of the yellow pages, and we're still talking yellow pages in 2000, 2001. Social media comes along. Every owner out there is like, this stupid social media thing, it's all for the kids. Nobody wants to be part of it. And then people who got very good at it, now we're getting a tremendous amount of digital leads that we can capitalize on and make a lot of money on. So here we are with these digital leads. And I think most dealers are like, let's get them in the store. Everything happens inside the store. But COVID put all this stuff on steroids, and it shoved that ability to shop digitally ahead by 5 years, if not 10 years. And so you are literally going to be missing a tremendous amount of sales moving forward if we don't find a way to handle the influx of digital leads. And it may be a pain in the ass right now, but all of a sudden we get good at it and becomes a massive profit center, just like those other 2 pieces. So something to consider as an industry. I think if you're trying to just be a small hometown dealer, your leads walking through the front door are going to get less and less and less. Because if we have a digital presence, it allows any dealer to become a nationwide dealership, not just a hometown dealer. So just some thoughts that have been running through my mind over the past several months, especially with the economy starting to spin a little bit. But John, can you hit me back with the answers on those 2?
I think I can get close. And Aaron, you may need to chime in on some of these, but I think that, so lead comes in, right? Customer raises their hand. When we say 7 to 15, right, I'd count those, the first 3 outbounds, those are going to be 3. Okay. So I'm going to count those as 3. Okay. That way. I think the other thing is we see a significant difference in the number of outbounds required to get a response, we see a direct correlation with the time, the response time, right? So the longer the response time goes out, the more activities we have to drive a response. The quicker the response is, if we're in that 5-minute neighborhood, it doesn't take much to get the customer because they're right there right now, right? They're in the moment. That's why that speed to lead thing is so critical. Customers do this when they're in the moment. We are immediate gratification people. We just are. I'm here, right? I sent you an email. Why haven't you responded, right? I gave you my phone number. Why haven't you called me, right? So if we get there quick, it comes down. The longer it goes, the higher the number is to get to somebody to re-engage at that point.
Okay.
From a staffing model, I think that 150 leads a month really is an average, okay, that we see. We see it depends on the size of the store and the volume, right? But if you are a 150 lead store, as average is, one dedicated person, right, that understands the sales process and with the right tool should be able to handle that 150. They may be able to handle it all the way up to 200, 250, 300. Okay. And the only way to know when to make a change or when to add is to use some of that KPI and performance data that's there. Okay. We're getting set and kept, but boy, all that's working. But I see lead volume coming up. And with that, now my one person, I'm starting to see response time get longer and longer and longer. Okay. Now I need to add a body at that point.
So definitely one and probably maybe upwards of 2 would handle most of the people in the industry these days.
I would, yes.
And if you don't mind, I want to jump, excuse me, John, I want to jump in real quick.
Yeah, go.
Both parts, both questions, Sam, both really good questions. I think one of the key things when a new lead comes in that's important about the customer's journey, that emotional journey and the experience is how do they want to be communicated with, right? So you're right, Sam. Having those 3, avenues: text, call, email, right? But a key question that we know, and our data has really prompted us to ask a key question. Sam, how would you like to most be communicated with, right? And so that allows, as you look at some of the conversation log and the history and so forth, it allows us to really identify how does Sam Dancer want to be communicated with, and that a lot of times will prompt, what type of channel you're going to have. Some people say, hey, I gave you my number, but I prefer email because I'm traveling. Well, we know that that's going to be a great way to communicate with, but the amount of touches, what we see is, like you said, most cases, especially with somebody that hasn't responded yet, we make 1, 2, 3 attempts.
Yep.
Even that customer that hasn't responded back to us, it does take several of those days, those several touch points in time intervals and days to where we're either having a great conversation, they fall on, they fall off. And John kind of alluded to that early on. So I think it's important that we look at, hey, Sam may be busy today, he may be busy tomorrow, but 4 or 5 days from now may be the perfect time to capture your attention, whether that be, and also another thing we always look at is when are we trying to communicate with them? A lot of us, as we know, we have customers that are on calendars that are scheduled to be called. Possibly Sam from 9 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon is the worst time to communicate. So trying other times in that to communicate, to get responses. It's all about responses. The second question, John's right. I think what we typically see, most of us are open 5 days for sure. I don't see less than that usually, but 6, 7 days. So I think it depends on your scheduling, your seasonality. 1 to 2 people, typically from somebody who's maybe sick, maybe on vacation, and then you look at your when you're open and closed.
Yep. So. Okay. Thanks for putting some numbers to that. John likes to straddle the fence and it comes across like wisdom, but the hard numbers really help sometimes. Aaron, thank you.
Appreciate you being here, Sam.
I bet you do.
Anybody else?
John, there's no questions in the chat, so let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. All right, final slide. At least for me, Aaron will tie a little bow on this thing here in a minute. There's a couple of things you can do, right? Those QR codes are live, okay? If you are so compelled to make the right decision today, scan the one on the left, right? Sign up. We'll contact you. We'll start your onboarding. We'll get you rolling, we'll get you trained up, get your digital traffic log going, get you into the Helm Academy classes, and we will start moving you quickly from current to ideal state. Great decision. If you want to see more, right? If you want really a deep dive into LeadHelm, the platform, scan the one on the right, and we will set you up with a VIP tour at that point. So you can go in and you can actually see the mechanics and the workings of it, how that system works. The third option is you say, you know what, I learned enough today. That's great. Good information. I'm going to take back and I'm going to implement some of this stuff myself. And I say, before you do that, ask yourself honestly, introspection in the mirror, what's your track record for implementation and execution? And if it's good, run with it. Most dealers struggle with that piece. Okay. We can accelerate this stuff for you. So scan one of those. You've also got on your worksheet, if you want to scan that one for a VIP tour, you can do that. Those are live as well on that worksheet that you got. So for me, anyway, thanks for your time. Great to see a lot of you again, and I'm just excited to share cool information. So with that, I am going to step away, and Aaron, please bring us home for a minute.
That's great. John, thank you so much. First of all, let's give it up for John. Great session today, John. We really appreciate it. And I want to thank all of you for joining today. Thank you for our time. Hope all of you walked away with key takeaways and insights from today. And just to reiterate what John said, we'd love to get you signed up now. You have the 2 QR codes there. And if you just would like to speak with us, if you'd like to chat, you have any questions, you'd like more information, we're excited to talk with you further. So thanks everybody for joining, and have a great rest of your day.